Hello and welcome to the Space Between Ideas. I'm Blank Gates. If you missed me a couple days ago, don't worry, I'm still here. I'm fine. The weather is getting colder. I put a little thermometer up here. I just didn't have anything to say. And I think if you don't have anything to say, then what's the point of talking? Today, I do have something to say. Over the last couple of days, over the last several days, I've been thinking about this. Like, how are we going to talk about the next section of this book? You see, we're talking about the state purposes checklist in the book Create Crucial Insight, which is we need to envision purposes that motivate. What does it mean to envision purposes that motivate? Well, of course, we want motivated people. If it's a company, we want motivated staff. If it's a country, we want motivated citizens. If it's a family, we want motivated children, motivated husband, motivated wife. Whatever it happens to be, we want people to be motivated because we need productivity, or at least that's my understanding. Productivity is a great thing. So we want to figure out what it is that motivates people, motivates individuals, teams, relationships, and activities. And once we understand what it is that motivates people, then we can specifically talk about what types of facets, specifically what can we do? What are the elements that we can add to the workplace in order to connect that motivation to specific things? And over the last several weeks, we've been talking about potential, then we jumped into agendas, and then now it's time to start talking about effects. In fact, I probably could do another video about agendas, because we didn't really talk about optimizing risk-taking or exposure to risk. And I just feel like agendas, like what is agendas? It just means you make a plan. And then there's one other element about it, which is that in some cases, you need to understand what it means to take risk. And according to this, my understanding of Tom's work, he's saying that some people are actually motivated to increase or decrease exposure to risk. Some people are motivated to optimize risk taking. And maybe it has something to do with, for example, people who like to gamble. And at the end of the day, gambling is just another form of business. Of course, in business, there are so many more elements that are not related to that. I mean, there's so many variables that you have to get your finger on in order to succeed in business. And some of the variables you cannot control. Whereas gambling is just a simplified version of that, which is just basically you just pull a little lever and then did I win or did I not win? But still, even in that case, there's a lot of variables that you can't control. And I feel like, yeah, of course, we need to have goals and we need to understand how much risk it's going to be for us to work toward those goals and what are the different elements that are going to either help us to succeed or not succeed. Great. But I don't know, I just wasn't like super motivated to talk about it. Even though I like to make agendas, I like to create plans, I am motivated by this process and facets. Okay, so I work with lots of people and I talk to them about the things that they want to achieve. And I talk to them about how to create a sense of direction. And we talk about different aspects of risk. So that is a normal and natural part of my day. But I just I don't know how to really talk about it. And so I started thinking about effects. As you can see here, we have things like have satisfying experiences or relationships, provide resources, methods, or knowledge. Wait a minute, provide. So down here, we have something called deploy resources, methods, or knowledge. What's the difference between deploy and provide? And then we have satisfy, affect principles, standards, agendas, or goals, enhance people's lives, the fabric of society. And I started to realize I don't really understand what's the difference between an effect and creating effect and shaping potential. So I started to talk to one of my students about this. And I mean, so we don't have to read this. At the end of the discussion, we were talking about what really motivates you. And she's like, well, it's emotion. Emotions motivate you. And I'm like, okay, so why are you angry? And she's like, anger, it makes, so that's one emotion. And then you act because you're angry. And I'm like, I don't know. So is it the emotion that gets you to act? Because, okay, but why do you have an emotion? Where's that emotion coming from? I think it comes from unrealized expectations. Why? I mean, remember the old Warren Buffett quote? He says that if you want a marriage to last, look for someone with low expectations. And I think that's really where a lot of the problems come from. So you're expecting a lasting marriage, or you expected a respective marriage and respectable behavior, and then something happens, and then your expectations aren't met, and then you're like, I'm angry. Why? Because my expectations were not met. I'm happy because my expectations were exceeded. You see? So it seems like emotion has a lot to do with expectation. Now, that's not everything, because, okay, so if I go and I sit on a roller coaster and I know what it's going to feel like to be on this roller coaster because I've been on this roller coaster before, then it's going to basically, my expectations are going to be met, and I'm still going to have an emotional experience. But what does that have to do with making decisions? I don't know. Okay. Anyways, so let's get back to the thing. So I've been working with this girl for a long time, and she has a podcast about feminism in China. And a lot of what we talk about is to help her to improve her business. And some of the time we talk about, like, what is feminism and why is it important to her, and what is feminism in China? And because, like, my understanding of feminism was very different than hers. Why? Because I grew up in a family where my mother was basically like a feminist, but also conservative, which means that she was happy to have children, and she loved having a family. And then once her children were in school, so she proactively took on the responsibility to raise her children, but she was always managing the home at the same time, and she was also managing finances. And, like, I think my mom told me that they had like a 20-year mortgage and they paid it off in 9 years. And then I asked my dad, like, where are all your investments? And he's like, well, you're going to have to ask your mother. So she was like I think my mother was a feminist, but at the same time she raised the kids until they got into school. And then she created some kind of program, like a lunch program, so that she could be in the school and see what's happening in the school and also make money. And then eventually she created a daycare so that she could continue to work with the families and also the children in the area. And then she eventually got into insurance, and then she was thinking about purchasing like a brokerage. Like, so I couldn't understand, like, what do you mean feminism? Like, my mom is like super proactive. And then there's other people who are like getting shamed, like, oh, you shouldn't have children, you should work. What? I mean, whether you're a man or a woman or somewhere in between or something else, you having children, it's your own decision. It has nothing to do with some societal norm, like feminism or conservatism or liberalism or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. It's your own decision. So, like, I don't know. I came from this area of, like, I felt like some people in the West at that time, or at some period of time, were like feeling like, well, society's telling me I need to work and I shouldn't be spending so much time with my children, and being a stay-at-home mom is a this or that. I don't know. Wow. I got a meeting in 3 minutes. All right. So over the next couple of videos, I think it's going to give me some time to think through this, because the problem that I have right now is, like, what does it mean to create effects? So I was saying, okay, so something already exists and you want to support it or make a change. Thank you. How do you say your name? Mirandeva? And then the next one, okay, so she said, creating an effect is to make something out of nothing. It doesn't exist before and I make it exist. And I don't know. So, and then, okay, so I was trying to figure out what is the difference between an effect and shaping potential. So then that led me to think about, like, this idea of, like, okay, you do this cause in order to achieve this effect. Hello, a cheater. Well, I only got 2 more minutes. I got a meeting. But in this series, I've been doing this series for a couple of months now, and it's not really easy to understand because I go into this book. It's called Create Crucial Insight. Create Crucial Insight, and a physicist has pulled out all of these purposes or all of these ideas about motivation. And so in the last 19 videos, I've been going through these lines one by one, trying to understand motivations and then how to bring things into our life to be more motivated. So we got all the way through potential, and now we went through agendas. Now we're talking about effects. But I'm having a problem because I can't understand the difference between creating effects and shaping potential. I make about 3 videos a week, and in the next video, I'm going to go deeper into this idea of what's the difference between creating effects and shaping potential. And potentially, maybe we'll go through this example that I had with this discussion with this lady from China. Unfortunately for today, that is going to be it because I got a meeting, but we will see you next time on Tuesday. This has been Space Between Ideas, and I'm Blaine Gates.